so nice to be back in a somewhat normal market again, where the prices, they are tumbling, they are really coming down nicely. We picked up SIX RTX 3070 gaming PCs for just under £800 each. Now that is very, very, very cherry. We're going to go through how we bought these. We're going to restore them a little bit and show you what they look like when they've been restored to a pristine condition, and of course the performance you can expect from these. So stick around, you're gonna love it. So the basic story is there's an arcade that did VR, all that kind of thing, and they had loads of these powerful PCs to run their arcade, but sadly because of the coronavirus stuff, all this, they did have to shut down, which is pretty sad. Obviously, I'd never like to see a local business go down, but they needed to offload their stock, and of course there's not many places in the area that are going to take this many PCs. There's not many people with that kind of capital. Luckily, here at the business, we've got enough capital to pick up all those PCs, so came in at a pretty nice price, and I don't think I was being really cheeky for £800. I think that's pretty fair, given that they were used in a commercial environment. They're going to need a little bit of love to get them back up and working. That's got to be worked into the price, especially if I'm going to be selling them on. But with that said, we're going to go through some cleaning. We're also going to go through what they look like once they've been restored, little things that we can do to improve the look for resale, and then of course we're going to have a look at the performance as well. So I think the first thing to do is let's start with a little cleaning montage. It's always quite nice and satisfying to go through that, and we'll see you on the other side.
Now, you know, it's vitally important to protect yourself whenever working with any kind of dusty PCs. You don't want to give yourself lung disease, do you? So protect your eyes with goggles, protect your face with a mask, and protect your ears with something as well, because we're using a duster, very, very loud. So we're wearing some headphones to keep that sound down. Keep yourself protected, guys, and you'll be fine.
Wait, stop the montage. What the hell is going on with that lawn? It looks dreadful. Let's mow that baby. Roll a new montage. So, grass cut, but more importantly, PCs complete. Let's have a look inside, see what we've got, and see what we can do to gussy it up. So looking over the internals of this PC, really nice spec actually. Really fantastic for even high-end gaming, thanks to the great components inside. So let's start with the case. I actually use this case all the time. It's the GameMax Kamikaze Pro. The reason I use it all the time, well, I haven't used it so much recently, but in the past I've used it a lot. It's got actually a mesh front. It comes with the 4 RGB ring fans included, and they can all be controlled via the case, so you don't have to worry about any sort of motherboard manufacturer software or anything. Pretty good overall. It's a micro ATX case, so it's a bit smaller, a bit more compact, which makes sense in that commercial environment that they were being used in. Aside from the case, what else have we got? So we've actually got a really nice platform here. So our CPUs are Ryzen 7 3700Xs, all 6 of them, same CPU. They also all had the same motherboard, so they all had the MSI B550M Mortar Wi-Fi. This is actually a baller board. You could even put your Ryzen 9s on this, and it would be absolutely fine. It's a really well-built board, great power delivery, and it's got Wi-Fi 6 built in as well. A couple of the models had antennas that had snapped off. They'd obviously not been stored properly or something, so we replaced some of the antennas, but other than that, the motherboard's in pristine condition as well. Now, the cooling solution on board, obviously we talked about the case fans that we already had, but we've also got an Arctic Freezer 34, the esports version on here. They've all got the same cooler, which is great. It's a nice cooler, perfect for Ryzen 7, so we won't need to change that either. The memory is a little bit different between the different manufacturers, but they're all the same sort of spec really, so 16 gigabytes, 2 lots of 8, DDR4, 3200 speed. It's pretty nice, modern gaming, that's kind of the benchmark that you want here. You don't really want to go any slower than that, but equally it's fine for gaming. SSD wise, again, it's a bit of a mix. There were some WD Blues, there was some Crucial P2s lying around. Kind of just depends on which machine I was looking at the time, but they're all 1TB NVMe SSDs. Absolutely brilliant, so that's another plus. Graphics cards, again, they're all RTX 3070s. We had a bit of a mix, so we had a couple of Zotac Twin Edges, we had a couple of Palit Gaming Pro, and we had a couple of Gigabyte Eagle as well. Now, out of that lot, the best card is actually the Palit Gaming Pro. Even though it's not the OC version, the other two are OC versions, it runs a lot cooler, it's got a much nicer heatsink on it, so that's actually the one that I would pick out of all of them. The Zotac's probably the worst one because they just seem to run really loud. Zotacs really do run quite loud. Them and MSI Mech, they run really loud as well. Nothing we can't help with a bit of fan curve tweaking, but not ideal. I think the Palit's probably the best graphics card out of that lot. Obviously, you're going to need a nice power supply to supply power to the system, of course. They were a bit of a mix between them. So some of them had Be Quiet System Power 9s, which is kind of that entry to mid-level power supply, 700 watt I think, and then there was a few that had Cooler Master MW Bronze 750s in them, which is a pretty nice bronze power supply. So again, not needing to change the power supply at all. In fact, they're actually better power supplies than I was expecting to see in these. Cable management wise, it was okay. On this channel, we're not one of these channels that really likes to really tighten down those cables, because actually having worked with hundreds and hundreds of computers, that's really annoying to do maintenance on. You actually just want them fairly neatly arranged in a way that it's going to be easy to move things in and out. And if you've got them tied down to the within inch of their life, it's going to be so hard for you to change anything in the future. All it is, it looks good. And what's the point of it looking good when there's a big steel panel on there? So anyway, that's my rant about over cable managing. Over. Absolutely fine. No problem at all. So now we've got to think about a few ways to gussy this thing up. So there are a couple of things in the PC that are a little bit unusual, maybe just because of the environment that they were purchased from. So for instance, they took out the power button from the top of the PC where it normally would be, and they installed an external power button that runs out the back, and it was stuck on with a bit of super glue or some hot glue or something. So we needed to obviously change that round as part of our TLC. Also, they had some receivers for HTC Vive headsets. Obviously, they must have forgotten to take those out, so what I'll do is I'll take those out and then obviously post them back to the person because they're going to need them, because I didn't buy the headsets off them as well. So we need to take those out. Other things we're going to do to make this look a little bit nicer. We're going to vinyl wrap all the power supplies, so you'll probably see some footage on screen now showing you us vinyl wrapping that power supply up. We've obviously given it a dust through already. If there's any extra little bits of dust, we can touch those up as well. We can tidy up the cables a little bit as well, like some of them, because the cable's going underneath. I think it would look a bit nicer if they're going over the top. Also, because it's quite a compact case, having those cables go over the top of the card rather than underneath, it will help with not obstructing the airflow to the fans, and sometimes in these small cases the power cables can actually catch on the fans as well and make a horrible noise or cause damage and that kind of thing. So we'll run them over the top, and that should give us a little bit of extra clearance, a little bit better. I don't know if it will look better, but I think the performance will be a little bit better there as well. Other than that, these machines are actually in pretty good condition, so there's not really much else I'm going to change here. I'll do some temperature testing. If the temperatures aren't up to snuff, then of course we'll change the thermal paste, but usually people are changing their thermal paste way too often. Like 2 or 3 years is really how long the thermal paste is going to last before it gets really dry, unless it's under some kind of horrific conditions, maybe it's in an Alienware case or something. So of course, cleaning up the physical condition of the PC is just one part of the process, of course. There's going to be all kinds of rubbish installed on these computers, so we want to really nuke it, ground zero, get this thing completely back to a proper factory reset. So rather than show you, I'll quickly explain. So what we did is we updated the BIOS to the latest version available on all the PCs. We also then did a clean install of Windows 11 Pro, but before that we actually did a proper DoD, whatever the acronym is, the really posh overwrite thing on the SSDs to completely nuke them and get them back to a base level. Then we've got a Windows 11 Pro on, and then we're going to go ahead and install our benchmarks, test it all out so we can see the results. And we've also tested all of the different configurations here, so they're actually pretty much all the same. The only real difference is the brand of graphics card, so it'd be quite a good little exercise in showing you how different or how not so different different brands of the same video card are. So it's going to take me ages to talk through all of them, so what we're going to do is roll a little montage with all the results on it so you can see all of that, and then we'll talk about the discussions at the end. So there you have it. Those are the results from our gaming tests. Basically, what did we find? What was the difference between these systems depending on the video card that they had? If we're talking about performance-wise, actually, it was the Zotac that came out on top, which was quite surprising. But remember the Zotac, and indeed the Gigabyte as well, but they were both OC models, so you would expect a slight bump in performance. So this was probably most pronounced in the Heaven benchmark, where we got a slightly higher score, slightly higher FPS average as well. But we're talking, 1, maybe 1.5% difference, so it really isn't that much different at all. The Palit was actually the slowest of the 3 cards, but again, this is such tiny amounts. This is literally 1-2% maximum in terms of the difference in performance. So you can pretty much consider these all to be equivalent, unless you're really trying to nail in that that high spec there. But for me, no difference at all. Where there was a difference is in the temperatures. So if we're looking at the temperatures, the Palit was the coolest at 72. Then we had the Gigabyte coming in at 74, and then we had the Zotac coming in at 78. But that's not the whole story. So that's the temperature, maximum temperature after half an hour, as you saw in that montage that we just did. But it's not the whole story. So that's 78 degrees on the Zotac, whilst actually on paper is not horrific. Obviously, when we're talking about GPU, we want to keep it under 80, really, to keep it running nice and smooth. But that 78 degrees was loud. It wasn't pleasant experience having the PC next to me. And I was wearing earphones at the time of testing. It wasn't ideal. So this is why I'm not really a big fan of Zotac cards. They all seem to be just a little bit loud. Not ideal. They usually are the cheapest though, so that's kind of the trade-off, I suppose. But the Palit, on the other hand, was the coolest, and it was really quiet as well, because it's got a really fat cooler on it. It's got 3 fans, which does help keep that temperature down. And of course, when the temperature's lower, you can run those fans lower as well. So out of the 3, the most pleasant gaming experience was on the Palit card. And I say that as somebody that pretty much uses Gigabyte cards most of the time. So pretty happy with that. And an interesting comparison between the 3. So conclusion time. I hope you'll agree. These builds actually fantastic and really quite the deal. Goes to show how much having a lot of capital and being able to make these big purchases is, especially in bulk. You can save quite a lot of money. Now, used versus new, obviously the main benefit of going used is you can get these fantastic deals like this. The price is really great. Of course, there are drawbacks coming with used as well. You're probably going to get reduced warranty, if any at all. The parts are obviously older and they may have had a bit of a rough life, you just don't know. Luckily in our case, I kind of knew what was going on with them. I knew they'd been bought just before the pandemic, so they probably weren't used very much in the commercial setting, but perhaps you wouldn't be so lucky. You're obviously going to have to do a bit of TLC yourself. If you need to fix things, move things around, you'll need a little bit of computer know-how to do that. You can't rely on the technical support if you're going to buy a new system entirely. So that's it really. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I want to see you in the next video. I want to see a comment below. And I want to see you have a beautiful day, because I really appreciate you dropping by. Goodbye now. Oh, hey guys. Yes, I'm back. Just a quick message for you. If you like this video, thanks, first of all. You could also check out this one, wherever the tile's going to be. It's going to be on the screen. It's going to be about how we brought back a video card from the dead. If you like used tech, you might like seeing us fix up an old graphics card that was destined for the bin, in which case check that video out. If not, have a lovely day. Bye bye bye.